Hello, this is a quick demo on how to create a live presentation type in the miiEvent application in Salesforce.com. We're currently sitting on the home screen here, and what we want to do is go up to the top right and pick our app, which is Events and Registrations. Now from here we want to click on the Presentations tab. Now this demo assumes that you've got your ticket types set up, your presentation types, your speaker lists, your venues and your venue rooms. So what we want to do now is click on the new button here, and I'll run through a few of the different fields and how they behave and how we can publish this to your website so customers can register for these events. The first page is actually what's called a record type. So we have three in the native package called live presentations, media only and webinars. We're going to focus on live today because that's the point of this demo. So once you click continue, you actually go to the next page layout, which essentially is asking you to put in some default information and also some additional information. Now this is actually going to be what's displaying on your website for people to read about the presentation and register for that particular event. The first field up here, custom display name, I'm actually going to leave blank on purpose, and I'll come back to that and explain what it is later on down the presentation. The active checkbox, if this is checked, it is one of the rule criteria that will allow it to be displayed on your website. If you do want to have a presentation removed instantly from your website, you can come into the record and simply uncheck that, but we're going to leave it checked for now. The first required field here is the venue. Each presentation record that's in your CRM is required to have a venue. This is a simple lookup to the venues table, and we can see here I've clicked that and we have one venue already installed here, which is at the Marriott Brisbane. So I'm actually going to click on that venue ID and allow that to be attached to this presentation. Now by me doing that, you'll actually see now it's asking me for a venue room. Similarly to what I did with venue, when I do click this, the behavior is that it actually goes and looks at the venue you've selected and is only going to let you pick venue rooms that are at that particular venue. It's a logical step that you can only essentially select a room that is at that particular venue and not get your information and data confused and have people going to wrong venues at wrong places. So here I've actually pre-configured a room called My Room at the Marriott Brisbane here. So I'm actually going to click this room ID and have that value pushed into there. Over here on the right, we've got our presentation times. This is a text field that allows you to basically put in any information about whether it's the start time, the end time, the registration time. So by default here I've actually just got a 9 AM to 5 PM. So a 9 AM start for a 5 PM finish. You can also put in front of that a say for example 8 AM registration for a 9 AM start. The next drop down here which is required is the time zone. This is pretty self-explanatory in that the website will know based on the person that's looking at it the time zone and you know what exactly the time zone is for this particular presentation. My presentation type here is again another lookup. So the presentation type, I guess, simply is a way of grouping presentations into one presentation type group. The reason for this is, for example, I've got here one presentation type called John Doe's Free Share Knowledge. On your website, if we were to have not only this presentation but maybe one in a week afterwards and one another week after that, all of this same type on your website, they're going to be grouped nicely so a particular customer could pick the one that's in their particular state. So I'm going to go ahead and attach this to the presentation type here, and the date of the presentation I'm going to forecast for the 26th of October. Now by default the status is actually set on planned. This is for a reason that only open status presentations will be displayed on your website. Now before we can move this to open, there are a few other things that we have to do to configure this correctly. So I'm going to leave that plan right now. That's really the last stage that we're going to do in actually opening it up for customers to be able to register to it. My booking link here is an external registration link that you could use with your particular alliance partners or however you see fit. The short description here, I've just pre-configured one, is a short description that is displayed on the website next to it. It should be short and punchy about exactly what it is that event's trying to do in 1 or 2 sentences. The long description can go into more detail, which essentially goes to another page that can be quite long in its description, exactly a longer description on what the person can expect from the event. Breaks and refreshments, pretty self-explanatory. It's however you're looking to cater for the people, you can leave all this stuff without a red column next to it, blank, but the website, you would generally put in some sort of information. So depending on your HTML on your website, if you're displaying these fields, you can put information in here. And what you will learn is a simple, self-explanatory again, what they could be expected to learn from your event and how you're going to deliver that. So once I save this record here, it's going to commit it to the database, and I get a display view of my entire record. Now, there's a few other things we have to do about, we really want to set up who's going to be speaking at this event, because the website will show, oh, okay, this particular person or group of people are actually going to be presenting at this, and that will also display next to the presentation your speakers here. So you'll see here in the sub tab we've got speaker to presentations. So if I click on that there, it takes me to another page which essentially is going to relate this presentation to a predefined speaker record. So you'll see there the presentation ID is automatically gone in, but it's still asking me for which speaker is actually going to be at this presentation. So if I simply click the lookup, you can see I've got a speaker called John Doe from the company, my company, his address details, which are not displayed on the website, but really the speaker profile on this record is displayed. So we'd hope to assume that John is an expert speaker that has been employed by your company, or it could even be yourself, as you are the speaker with other people that are going to be presenting at this particular presentation. So by me saving that now, you can see I've now got one speaker named John Doe which is actively attending my presentation. Now, before I actually can proceed, I'll just show you an error validation that is circling around presentation ticket types. I said earlier that it would default and go to a plan status. If I was to click that to open it and do that, it actually gives me an error message saying I do need to assign this presentation to at least one presentation ticket type. Now, a ticket type is essentially a record that is going to determine if it's a paid event, if it's not paid, how many of these particular ticket types can I sell at this event. Am I allowing 500 to be sold at this presentation on a payment plan, and maybe release 1,000 free ones which may be non-VIP? So what I need to do now, before I can open it, I'm just going to cancel that. It'll put me back to plan. I need to actually go relate this presentation to a presentation ticket type. So again, it will take me to another screen. It'll ask me, okay, what ticket type would you like to be allocating to this presentation? So again, these are already pre-configured. If you haven't done this already, there are other walkthroughs on how to set up your ticket types. But in this particular org, I've got 2 ticket types. I have a VIP ticket type, which could be seating at the front, and I have free tickets, which may be seating at the back. So what I want to do is say, well, okay, I want to release a VIP ticket type, and I can say, well, I only want to release 100 at a cost per ticket of $100. And I make sure that it's active and it is still related to my presentation ID. So once I save that, it's going to do a few things. It's actually going to do an overview, produce a history of exactly what I've changed on this. My expected revenue, which is ticket availability times the amount per ticket. So my expected revenue is $10,000 if I was to sell all these at the full price. So what I'm going to do now is actually go back to my presentation by clicking here. And you can see in the ticket sales area, it's actually rolled up my maximum available tickets tickets remaining to be sold, percentage, and I haven't actually sold any yet because that comes into when people register and actually buy my tickets, or if you do free events, you actually registering for the free event. So what I want to do now is say, okay, I'm happy with releasing 100 VIP tickets, but I want to also accommodate for free tickets to fill my room. So I'm going to go create another ticket type on this presentation. And this time when I go to look at my ticket type, I'm actually going to pick the free ticket type. Now you can use ticket types across many different presentations, because this is simply creating a relationship that, alright, I've set up all my ticket types that my company ever sells. It could be free, could be gold, silver, bronze, VIP, diamond, but for this example we've only got 2. So I want to release 200 tickets at a price of 0 on this presentation. So by me saving that now, actually takes me back to the record I just created, and I can see, I can double check, okay, I've got 200 available at 0, so my expected revenue is 0. So when I go back to my presentation, you can see my ticket availability is now increased because it's adding the 2 of my ticket types together. And you can do this as many times as you like if you sell many different tier levels of tickets. Okay, so now we're back in our presentation here, and I mentioned earlier about this custom display name field up the top. Now natively, if you're using the miiEvent Joomla component on your website to take these registrations, if that field is actually left blank, it will create a name for the event itself, and it's the name, it's the venue, it's when it's displayed. But if you did want to overwrite that and actually name it something that is more friendly to your company and didn't want to go into coding on your Joomla website with PHP, you can simply put in a name that's desirable to you. So I've actually picked one, John Doe's 5 Simple Rules to Trading in a Bear Market. Now if I save that and commit it to the database, that now is actually going to override the standard formula that we use to name these presentations. Each customer is different in how they use the product. Some like to purely customize every event name, some just like the mandatory name that we've given them. So now we're ready to really release this once we're happy with the times, the dates, and we've had it checked by management or yourself. And so to actually release it onto your website, we do need to go to the status checkbox now, pick list, and consider it open. So by me doing that now, making sure that it's active, checked up the top right, and the status is open, it's actually now on your website. Now a few things to note here. The date of the presentation is in the future, so logically this event will only display up until that day that it's of the presentation, because it would make no sense to allow people to register the day after it's finished. So when that date does come around and it becomes the 27th of the 10th in our example, the status of the event automatically will move to held, which will actually take it off your website. So you're not having to really manipulate your CRM data. It is quite automated in that you can be comfortable in the fact that it will not be displaying events that were in the past, because logically that wouldn't make sense to us. If you did have an event, I'm just going to move it back to being open now, and for whatever reason you needed to cancel it or postpone it, but didn't want to essentially make it inactive in your CRM, again there's statuses to accommodate for that. Everything that's not in the open status will not be displayed on your website. So if you did want to make an adjustment or change or put it on hold for a particular period of time, maybe because you didn't get the registrations that you're hoping for, or there was another reason, maybe the venue was no longer available, you could actually move it to be on hold, and essentially that would too take it off your website.